Federal government needs to do a deal with someone to get its super tax through the Senate. That policy will slug those super accounts worth more than $3 million, but the controversial part is the taxing of profits that haven't happened. The Greens have an offer on the table, but they want the tax to kick in at $2 million, but indexed. So might the Prime Minister be open to talking to the new coalition?
We have a majority in the House of Representatives with 94 seats. We do not have a majority in the Senate. We obviously work with different parties.
Joining us live is the Assistant Citizenship Minister, Julian Hill, the Liberal MP, Aaron Violi. Good morning, gentlemen. So, Aaron, we'll start with you first. What's your pitch to Labor then? What's the non-negotiable in this?
Well, we've been very clear, Pete, that there's two red lines, non-negotiables for us, and that's not taxing unrealised capital gains, which just offends every principle of fairness when it comes to taxation, and indexation is a concern for us. So we've said there are two red lines. If the government are willing to have a conversation about those, we'll look at it. Or I would say we always know with Labor the devil is in the detail, particularly around bills like this. So we don't have any legislation. We would want to look at that and understand the detail. But Labor will tell you that it impacts a small number of people. But the reality is, if you're under 30, you'll be impacted by this change because of the lack of indexation. So there are our two red lines. But we'll negotiate in good faith because that's what we need to do as an opposition. Work constructively where we can and hold the government to account and try and make their bad bills a little bit better for the Australian people.
OK, Julian, would you be open to that?
I'm a bit worried about the Collingwood scarf behind Aaron there, but anyway, g'day, mate.
Premiership scarf, Julian.
I think we're go doggies. Frankly, I think we're winning this argument with the Australian people, and yeah, look, we're engaging in a statement of the obvious. The government has two pathways through the Senate: deal with the Greens political party or the opposition. And the Prime Minister's rightly said we'll have respectful conversations with both parties in the Senate, and I'd hope that we can reach a broad consensus on this that everyone can vote for. But I'm very confident from my conversations in the community that we're winning this argument in the community. It's a simple proposition that people, good on them, who've done well in life, who have $3 million or more in their super account, can pay a little bit more tax on what is the most taxed privileged investment in Australia that is for your retirement. And no one has been able to convince me that if you've got more than $3 million in your super account, that you need all of that for your retirement. And, good on you. Hold that wealth, but pay tax like everyone else on it.
But you need help to get it through the Senate. So which one do you like more, Julian, the Greens or the Coalition's proposal?
Well, we're going to go in circles because I'm going to say the same thing. The government will talk respectfully with both pathways through the Senate.
Yeah, but which one do you like?
We're confident in the proposition.
Which one's raised your eyebrow?
We're confident. It's my birthday, Pete. Let's be nice.
Oh, happy birthday, by the way.
We're very confident. Thank you. Thank you. I love my birthday. Tell everyone about it. We're confident in the proposition that we're putting forward. Think about this seriously.
Yeah. No, I get that. I get that.
0.5%
that's your proposition. But my argument is you need the support of the Coalition or the Greens. So humour me. Which one do you like more?
I want both. I want both of them to see the sense in the government's proposition. No, seriously. Seriously. We have this conversation over and over again in Australia. There's a structural budget issue. We've got an ageing population. We've got increasing demand for defence expenditure, which I know rightly we've talked about here, for health expenditure. The government's put forward a proposition which is highly progressive to make people with a lot of wealth pay a little bit more tax. They'll still get a very generous tax concession, a very tax privileged vehicle. And let's be honest, if you've got $5, $10, $15 million in your super account, it is not for your retirement. So why do you attract the full tax concessions for retirement income? You should pay a bit of tax on it. It's estate planning.
I'll get back to you in a moment, Aaron, but Julian, Dan Molino told me yesterday that he's fine with people moving their assets around before that tax comes in, which investors are already doing.
Sure.
That means they'll get picked up by other tax brackets, which is the point. But aren't you worried about other consequences, that if investments are moved to, say, property, then that increases prices and makes it harder for other people?
No, I'm not. I mean, it is genuinely illogical, most of the arguments that have been putting.
That could be an unintended consequence, could it not?
What you're describing, and I think what Dan would be responding to, is a very obvious proposition that people make rational decisions to minimise their taxation.
Yeah, but I'm talking about unintended consequences.
Rational. No, the intended consequence is that if you have more than $3 million in your super account, it's not for retirement. And people will reorganise their assets accordingly as they see fit for their circumstances. Look, what I would also say, I read all of the newspapers, I'm pretty media literate. There is a bizarre, almost hysterical obsession with this modest tax change in some of the News Limited ecosystem and the Australian Financial Review. The Australian is losing its collective mind over
I think
this.
it's a fair enough,
Most of the rest of the world,
a reasonable concern to be worried about profits that haven't happened.
No. Well, I'd make the point that land tax, not something we have any constitutional power over, but many people pay. Land taxes unrealised gains because the value of the asset goes up and down and you pay more tax. But let's keep this in perspective. This is about what privileged taxation you extend to retirement income. Once it goes past $3 million, it's clearly not for retirement and can be subject to tax like other assets.
Aaron, you've been patient. Jump in.
Yeah, a couple of quick points. Julian might want to chat to his new colleague, the new member for Deakin, who was telling his electors during the campaign that Labor were going to scrap this proposed tax. So if he was telling his community that before the election, I wonder what he's telling them today. So that's something for the new member for Deakin to answer. But also, just one example, Julian, for my community, we've got a lot of farmers, smaller plots, 20 to 30 acres. The asset might be worth more than $3 million and it's in their super, but they don't have the cash. They're farmers that are working on really small margins in the current environment. They don't have the money today to pay for that. So while it looks like they're wealthy under Labor's definition, they're not, because that's their farm that they're surviving on day to day. Some seasons they might make money, many seasons they lose money, and you're asking them to pay tax and pay money on something that they don't actually have the cash for. And that is the principle that offends many of us. It's this idea that you're taxing something that's an asset, particularly for people where it's an income for farmers. And let's not talk about land tax, please, Julian. I'm sure you get as many emails as I do from frustrated constituents about state Labor's land tax and their new fire service levy as well. Taxing land is something that frustrates many community members because they don't have the cash to pay it day to day.
Alrighty, gentlemen, we're going to have to leave it there. Aaron, Julian, and happy birthday again, Julian. I hope you have a good day.
Happy birthday, Julian.
We'll see you next week.